What if I told you that your memories are lying to you? Not just a few of them, but millions of people sharing the exact same false recollection. We call it the Mandela effect, and it's far stranger than anyone wants to admit. Tonight we descend into a rabbit hole where reality itself seems to flicker, where the past refuses to stay still. Something is wrong with the world we remember, and the evidence is hiding in plain sight. It started with a name: Nelson Mandela. Thousands of people vividly recall him dying in prison during the 1980s. They remember the news coverage, the riots, the televised funeral, even his widow's tearful speech. But Mandela walked free in 1990, became president, and lived until 2013. So why do so many remember a death that never happened? Paranormal researcher Fiona Broome coined the term in 2009, and the floodgates opened wide. Once she shared her experience, something unsettling occurred. Strangers flooded her with identical memories. They weren't fans, they weren't connected. They lived on opposite sides of the planet, yet described the same funeral, the same emotions, the same broadcast. How does a false memory replicate so perfectly across millions of independent minds? Coincidence feels inadequate, and this was only the beginning. The Mandela death was just the first crack in a much larger fracture. Consider the children's books that defined a generation, the Berenstain Bears. Except, didn't you read about the Berenstain Bears? With an E? Almost everyone remembers it spelled that way. Parents who read those books 1,000 times swear by it. Teachers, librarians, entire classrooms. Yet every printed copy reads Berenstein. The letters never changed, they insist. But the memory is overwhelming. How can so many be so certain about something that was supposedly never true? Here's one that will shake you. The most quoted line in cinema history. Darth Vader's chilling revelation. Luke, I am your father. You've heard it, you've said it, everyone has. Except those words were never spoken. The actual line is, no, I am your father. Go watch it right now. The film never changed. Yet billions carry a memory of words that don't exist on the real. Something rewrote the quote in our collective mind. Look at the brands burned into your subconscious. The Monopoly man, that wealthy mustache tycoon, wore a monocle, didn't he? He never did. Pikachu's tail, did it have a black tip? It doesn't. Fruit of the Loom with its cornucopia overflowing with fruit? There is no cornucopia. These are companies that spend millions guarding their imagery, yet the public memory contradicts the official record. These aren't obscure details. They're icons we've seen 10,000 times. Now, the rational mind offers an explanation. Confabulation. Our brains don't record memories like cameras. They reconstruct them every time we recall, filling gaps with assumptions. We expect a monocle on a rich man, so we add one. We expect symmetry in a quote, so we smooth it. Psychologists call it false memory, and it's real. But here's the question that haunts the skeptics. Why do strangers confabulate the exact same errors, down to the smallest detail? And that's where the comfortable explanation begins to crumble. Random errors should be random. Yet these memories cluster with eerie precision. Millions agreeing on the same wrong spelling, the same wrong logo, the same wrong words. It's as if reality contains a master copy that was edited, and our minds retained fragments of the original. The deeper you look, the more the pattern resembles not human error, but a deliberate revision. Something or someone made changes. This is where the theory turns truly strange. Quantum physics whispers of parallel universes, infinite realities branching with every choice. What if we are slipping between them? What if the version of you reading this once lived in a world where Mandela died in prison, where the bears were Berensteins? Tiny details bleed through the membrane between worlds. Your memories are intact. It's the universe that shifted. You simply remember the reality you left behind. Many point a trembling finger at one place. CERN, the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, the most powerful machine ever built, smashing particles at the edge of physics. Conspiracy theorists note that many Mandela effects intensified after CERN went online in 2008. Are they tearing tiny holes in space-time, opening doorways between dimensions? CERN denies it all, of course. But every time they reach a new energy threshold, the strange reports surge. Coincidence or correlation? There's a darker possibility, one embraced by tech billionaires and philosophers alike. What if reality is a simulation? A vast computer program running our existence. And like any software, it receives updates, patches, revisions. When the code changes, when a developer alters a detail in the world's source code, the old version lingers only in human memory. The Mandela effect would be the residue of an edit, proof that something is updating the universe behind the scenes. Let's go bigger, much bigger. Pull up a world map and look closely. Many people are convinced New Zealand sits northeast of Australia, not southeast where it actually is. South America, they swear, was positioned almost directly below North America, not shoved so far east. These aren't logos, these are continents. The very geography of our planet feels rearranged to those who study old globes from memory. How does an entire landmass migrate in the human mind? Even our own bodies aren't safe. There's a wave of people, doctors included, who remember the human heart sitting on the left side of the chest. Anatomy now places it center left, more toward the middle than they recall. Kidneys, they say, sat lower, near the waist. They insist they learned it differently in school. When the internal map of our own flesh seems to shift, the foundation beneath everything begins to feel dangerously unstable. Listen to the witnesses. A woman writes that she taught her children the Berenstain spelling for 20 years and feels physically ill seeing it changed. A man recalls celebrating Mandela's death in his college dorm in 1991. A film buff with the movie memorized stands frozen, mouthing the wrong words. These people aren't lying, they're not foolish, they're terrified, because they know what they remember, and the world is telling them they're wrong. All of them, at once. Believers search for what they call residue, traces of the old reality that slipped through the edit. Old merchandise spelled Berenstain, vintage news clippings hinting at Mandela's earlier death, quotes printed in books with the wrong words. Each fragment is debated, dismissed, sometimes debunked, but occasionally a piece surfaces that no one can fully explain. A misprint that shouldn't exist, a photograph that doesn't match. The residue, they say, is the universe forgetting to cover its tracks. So if reality is being rewritten, who is doing it, and why the silence? Some believe powerful institutions know the truth and bury it to prevent panic. Imagine the chaos if humanity accepted that the past is editable, that nothing is permanent. Governments built on recorded history would tremble. Religions anchored in unchanging scripture would crack. Perhaps the cover-up isn't malicious. Perhaps it's the only thing holding our fragile sense of reality together. And yet, we must be honest. The human brain is a flawed recording device, prone to suggestion. Social media amplifies false memories, planting them through repetition until they feel personal. Tell 1 million people the bears were Berenstain, and many will adopt the memory as their own. This is the power of suggestion, documented and proven. The skeptics may be right, but even they admit one thing: they cannot explain every case. That's what keeps you awake. The unexplained remainder. The cases where psychology stretches thin and snaps. Because if even one Mandela effect is real, if even a single memory proves reality was altered, then everything you know is provisional. Your childhood, your relationships, the very ground beneath your feet. How would you ever know what's been changed? You wouldn't. That's the horror of it. The edits are invisible by design. Seamless, perfect, undetectable, except for the residue. So here is your challenge. Tonight, test your own memory. Look up the Monopoly Man, the Vader quote, the bears, the map of the world, and watch what happens inside you when the truth contradicts your certainty. That cold flutter in your chest, that refusal to accept it, that is the feeling of two realities colliding. Pay attention to it, because that sensation may be the closest you'll ever come to feeling the universe shift beneath you. Whether it's faulty neurons or fractured dimensions, one truth remains undeniable. We do not remember the world as it is, and that should terrify you more than any ghost story. If our collective memory can be wrong about this much, what else have we lost? What truths have already been overwritten, with no residue left behind? The reality you wake to tomorrow may not be the one you fell asleep in. Sleep well.